So we're going to start with a little philosophy, not too much, and then some stories. Everybody likes the stories, but I just think the philosophy will help us hear the stories besides just the stories. There's some lessons. I hear a machine chanting. Okay. As we know, bandhanam or prayer is one of the 9 processes of bhakti. Prayer is an essential part of any spiritual practice of any kind, doesn't matter. Just a few days ago, I was at Rice University, and one of the students, the topic was about meditation and then mantra meditation, etc. Kind of went through the back door and got to the front door that way. And at the end, there were 2 young men sitting together. He wanted to know how to practice mantra meditation. So I showed him my beads, and he said, "Oh, my mother has some beads like that." And I said, "Where, he from the east, I don't know which part of the east, somewhere." And his mother is a Buddhist. He said she's not really, a sincere practicing Buddhist or strict practicing Buddhist, but she has beads and she uses her beads. That's a type of prayer. So I shared with him some years ago, multiple times. There was a devotee that was a student at Cornell University. So we had several programs at Cornell University, and the program was held at the Student Center. The Ivy League buildings, they're those made of fantastic stone, 3 feet thick, and looking as opulent as you can get, and they'll stand forever or something. Very impressive structures. And the room that we had a ceiling at least this tall, and it was a room about this size, and all the way around the room were very, very large, old-looking paintings with old, big, giant frames of Buddhist monks chanting on beads. Different, persons, different images, different positions, sitting and cross-legged and things. I took note. It's part of a Buddhist practice. It's part of Christian practice. It's part of a Muslim practice. It's part of spiritual practices. Prayer, because it's a type of prayer. So prayer is essential, an essential element in spiritual practice, and so also in our practice. So this topic is the 2 aspects, not that there's only 2, but 2 aspects of prayer. There's purpose and intention, and they may sound similar, but they're not exactly the same. So that's what our topic is. And then we're going to tell some stories. The purpose aspect, taking from the Sanskrit phrase, there's sankalpa. That's your purpose, or another way of saying is acceptance, rejecting, sankalpa, vikalpa. Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam. Sound familiar? Heard that one? There's 6 limbs of surrender, and those are the first 2. Anukul means favorable. Anukulyasya sankalpa. You accept things that are favorable for bhakti. First limb of surrender. Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam. You reject, or vikalpa, things that are not beneficial. So the acceptance and rejection has a purpose. And that's what's favorable to what your objective is. Whatever's favorable to your objective, in bhakti, you do that. Some people do that when they don't have bhakti as their goal, they have some other samkalpa. We'll hear about that during our story time. That's the purpose, and the intention is where you consider different options of what's important to you, and you select one, you make some determination of intention. Here's a nice verse from Srimad Bhagwatam, Canto 12, Hare Krishna, Canto 12, Chapter 6, where the text reads, Manascha sankalpa vikalpa vritti yat. Manash consists of the functions of vikalpa, perceiving distinct options, and then sankalpa, selecting one, making that our determination. So prayer, and in a broader sense, our whole devotional life moves on two tracks. You don't want to see the screen. You're inviting her to see the screen, right? You're allowed. It's okay. Okay. So the first is our goal or purpose. Just like GPS. If you don't know what the destination is, the GPS isn't going to help you get there. If you know what the destination is, and the satellites are working, the signals are working properly, then at least you get a prompt how to get there. So what's your goal? Just a little sharing, because I see some young people in the room here. Once upon a time, I was a young man. And I was the youngest of 5 children. And my 4 older brother and sisters, one went to college, so it was just assumed I was going to go to college. And my father wasn't, a controlling type of person. He was a very generous type of person. But he sat me down one day and said, "What do you want to major in?" And I said, "I haven't decided yet. I was thinking to enter into undeclared major and then take some college level courses and get a sense." He said, "I don't want to send you to college unless you have a career plan." Dad, you never said stuff like that before. So I thought about it and said, "Okay, I want to be a doctor." "Okay, we'll send you to college." And then I selected courses that's going to help me get there. And then I didn't say, "I want to go to college so I can become a Hare Krishna devotee." I didn't have that in my planned goal, but that kind of happened along the way. So when you have a goal, Prabhupada's statement, when a goal is very clearly defined, it's very easy to make steps to get there. Conversely, if a goal is not well defined, you're not likely to get there with any clear steps. So what's the goal? In devotional life, not just checking the box and saying the right answer, and you pass your Bhakti Shastri exam, but it's something deeper, like the goal. Or those of you that like to hear Prabhupada's recorded lectures, one of the phrases he would repeat so many times, "Na te vidu svartakatimi Vishnu." You heard that one? Na means not. Te, they don't not. Vidu means to know. Vid means to know. Na te vidu. Sva arta gatim. Sva means one's own. Arta means benefit, and gatim, goal. They don't know the goal of life. This is Prahlad speaking to his father, Hiranyakashipu, who also didn't know the goal of life. He had a different idea. He had some idea. He wanted to become immortal and rule the universe. That was his idea. But such a person, like his father, doesn't know what the real goal of life is. So it's important to know what the goal is and not just make one up. I just made one up. I mean, I like the idea of being a doctor, but our devotional life moves on this track of having a clear sense of purpose, as well as a clear sense of intention or purity. Let's speak a little bit about the first one, a little more. Clarity of purpose or goal. Now, when it comes to it, anyone that's been around Prabhupada's books or the Hare Krishna movement for a while, you know there's some boxes you check out. Rise above materialistic pursuits, rise above heavenly pursuits, rise above seeking liberation. So what's left? Neither this nor this nor this. So then you rule some things out, and then you have something left. And the something left is attain the lotus feet of Krishna. Now you can ask, what does that mean? In simple terms, it means being in a humble mood, serving him. At his feet, serving him, whatever he wants. That's a goal. It's not liberation. It's a goal. Being, we learn this in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. Mama janmani jamani shware bhavatad bhaktir ahaitaki tvayi. It's not asking for liberation. Nadanam, this is the do nots at the beginning. Na janam, na sundarim kavitam, va jagadishakam. So, nor liberation. Janmani Jamanishware Bhavatad Bhaktir Ahaitu, costless devotional service. So that's a nice goal. That's a goal or purpose. Now, standing side by side with the goal, this other track that devotional life moves on is intention or motivation. And stating motivation, in principle, saying it, you're getting an A in your Bhakti Shastra exam is easy. Living by that principle, it separates the men from the boys. Or, the immature from the mature. The intention to please Krishna from within, and the other is that Krishna is actually pleased. So we're going to give some little examples. Then we're going to tell stories. So hopefully you're paying attention because the stories are meant to illustrate or expand on some teachings. Here's a proper example. Mother Yasoda's binding Krishna. That looks bad. Mother's binding a child with rope. Bad. In our Western culture, that's bad. Mothers don't bind children with a rope around their waist and tie the other end of the rope to something and go off and do some other service. That's child abuse in our Western culture. So, look bad. She was endeavoring to bind Krishna, which was Krishna's internal pleasure. Now, this pastime took place after Krishna supposedly eating dirt, right? Which one took first, chronologically? Mother Yasoda binding Krishna or Krishna eating dirt? Krishna eating dirt. Because what Krishna wanted was the happiness of having Mother Yasoda scold him. So she just wanted to look inside his mouth, and she looked inside his mouth, and she stopped scolding him. So he wanted that rasa, the love of Mother Yasoda scolding him. And so he did something naughty. I mean, he could just produce unlimited amounts of butter, but he just did what he did because he wanted Mother Yasoda to scold him. And then he wanted that ecstasy of running out of fear of Mother Yasoda's little nutty, and then crying and his body shaking, and it was an ecstasy. It doesn't look like ecstasy; it looked like child abuse, but it's the affection that Krishna wanted. So what she was doing was what Krishna wanted. It's not like she's thinking, "Oh, Krishna wants me to scold him, so I'll do what he wants me to do. I'll scold him." She was doing what mothers sometimes have to do out of love. And Krishna wanted that love from Mother Yasoda. He was actually pleased by her efforts, although initially she couldn't bind him. And 2 inches too short, 2 inches too short. But then he extended his Kripa Shakti so that she could bind him. He made obstacles, and then she could bind him. Here's another of someone that was doing something not nice to Krishna. That was Kamsa. Kamsa had a plan to attack Krishna in the wrestling arena. Although Krishna, he liked the combat. He liked. But the intention, look at the big heading at the top. The intention of Kamsa was not, let me give pleasure to Krishna by inviting him to a wrestling arena and he'll have some pleasure. His intention was something else. Here's another improper where a behavior, the intention looked good, but Krishna wasn't pleased. The intention, maybe some of you have read Giriraj Maharaj's book, I'll Build You a Temple, the Juhu story. In that book, Giriraj Maharaj writes a little section where there was a businessman in Bombay who he had a practice of drinking tea every morning and put a tulsi leaf in the tea because he thought that would be nice for Krishna. So his intention wasn't bad, but it wasn't okay. It's not that it pleased Krishna. So there's these two criteria. Look at the top. There's an intention to please Krishna, and Krishna is actually pleased. Now we're going to tell a couple stories. 3 stories. One story is the story of the lady who was carrying a bundle of sticks. Let's just say it again. In Bombay, there was a member who had the habit of drinking morning tea, and he put a tulsi leaf on the top of his morning tea. And his intention was that Krishna would be pleased. Yeah. Putting the tulsi in the tea, Krishna will be pleased. And then drinking the tea with tulsi, Krishna will be pleased. His intention wasn't bad. His intention wasn't Kamsa's intention. Hurt Krishna or something. But it wasn't pleasing. That was the idea. Clear? Okay. So when there's material absorption, both the purpose and the intention might be a little mixed. So Prabhupada tells the story. And one time, a lady was, she was not wealthy. Her income was she'd go into the forest, gather sticks and pieces of wood, tie them together with string or rope, and bring them somewhere, and she would sell them for a small amount of money, and that was her livelihood. So one time, when she was carrying a bundle of sticks on her head in the forest, the bundle fell off her head. And because she was a pious lady, she called out Krishna's name very loudly. "Oh, Krishna, help, Krishna!" And Krishna came because she called out so sincerely. And he said, "Yes, what can I do for you? Can you help me put this bundle of sticks back on my head?" So the intention is important. The purpose was not to please Krishna. The piety was to call upon Krishna. Some of our devotees recently went for yatra in India, in Vrindavan, and some of those devotees stayed longer. One of the devotees that stayed longer shared this with me. They, when they were going around Govardhan Parikrama, one of their boys had, well, he had diarrhea. And so they had to stop at a number of places in little homes along the Parikrama path. And the people were very cordial. And they allowed him to go to some place. And then he was really, because he was going to take a bath at Radhakund. So every place he bathed himself properly until the next time he had to stop and answer the call of nature because of diarrhea. So the family wanted to go back and just thank the people for their kindness. And in the course of their thanking the people for the kindness, they showed them such hospitality. They're not at all wealthy, the local Vrajbasi people, but they welcomed their home in their home, and they fed them whatever they could. They wanted to give some cloth. They wanted to give some ornaments. Poor. The family that was going are from the West, and they had all of the things that they need. But the culture was such that that's how they felt, and that's how they behaved. And then another time, Haribol, front row, look at this. I like it. The mask too. Fantastic. I bet you're not used to it being so cold like this though, right? Both got your jackets on. You're inside now. It might get a little warm. Yeah, I think so. Okay. They were traveling in a bus, and some lady described I can't even remember right now. Some misfortune happened, and she said, Radharani's mercy. She was undisturbed. I can't remember what it was. Undisturbed. Some misfortune came, not while on the bus, but in relation to the course of the discussion, and she just was as narrating in Radharani's mercy. So good fortune or ill fortune, the bundle of sticks falls off your head, or the bundle of sticks stays on your head and you get to the marketplace wherever you sell bundles of sticks and somebody gives you 10 times what it's worth. So it's not, the purpose, if the purpose is materialistic, when good fortune or ill fortune come, you're in the world of duality, happiness and distress. And if you're in the world of depending upon Krishna, whether it's happiness or distress, it's just, a variety of reciprocation from Krishna, or it's Krishna's mercy. The purpose and intention in our devotional life, this is specific for those of you that came a little late, is about prayer and the function and importance of both purpose and intention in prayer or any aspect of devotional service. Okay, now comes another story, a little bit longer story. This is the story of Gokarna. Now, some of you, does anybody here know where that place is? There's a city named Gokarna in South India. Are you familiar with where it is? There's a painting of Gokarna. It's along a river, the Tungabhadra River. You know? No. I know, not the story. The place. There's an actual place. I'm going to tell the Gokarna story. My question was, do you know the place? You don't know the place? Okay. There's a place. And it was named after this person who's described in Padma Purana as follows. In the Padma Purana, I found it really nice. There's a very large section of Padma Purana that's specifically glorifying Bhagavad Purana. It's called the Bhagavad Mahatmya. And there's different stories in the Bhagavad Mahatmya section. So it tells the Gokarna story, who was born in a place, city or a village or a place along the bank of the Tungabhadra River. And Narada is hearing this story from the narrators. The narrators are describing in this place, there was a Brahmana who was quite wealthy. His name was Atma Deva. And although he was quite wealthy, he was a little greedy. And being a little greedy, he, even though he had wealth, sufficient wealth, he would go for Dhundhakari and go door to door and act as if he wasn't wealthy. He would do begging door to door. And the place where he lived, people were pious, and so it describes in the Padma Purana, they were engaged in their swadharma, their occupational duties very nicely, and they were therefore very naturally inclined to give donations in charity to a Brahmana. So he had a bank account and he had nice income. And he was married. He was very learned. He had lots of Vedic knowledge. It's described he was effulgent in terms of knowledge, effulgent like the sun. And he had a wife whose name was Dunduli, and her personality was a little different. She was beautiful, born in a high birth Brahmana family, but she had a sharp tongue. She was always engaged in criticizing others. The Bhagavatam, the description says she had a bad mouth. Always finding fault. She was very talkative, cruel in her speech, quarrelsome by nature. Yet, on the other hand, she was very accomplished in her household duties. She took care of everything very nicely. And so the two lived together, Atma Deva and Dunduli. And one of the misfortunes for both of them is they had no children. And that was a concern for Atma Deva. And so one time he decided he would just go to the forest and leave his family situation, because what's the use of this wealth and all of our well-being without any children? So he went deep into the forest, sat underneath a tree by the side of a river, and a sannyasi came by. And when he saw the sannyasi, he went directly to the sannyasi, fell at his feet, and began sobbing, crying and crying and crying. So the compassionate sannyasi asked him, "What's the matter?" And he started saying, "Although I have wealth and although I have learning, I don't have any children. My wife is barren. Not only my wife is barren, I have a mango tree in our yard, and the mango tree doesn't produce any mangoes. And I have a cow, but the cow is also barren. What kind of bad activities have I done in the past to deserve this kind of condition? And I've come to the forest thinking I should just give up my life." And crying and crying. So naturally the sannyasi is going to speak transcendental knowledge. So the sannyasi began speaking transcendental knowledge. "My dear sir, Bhagavad Gita chapter 2. Don't lament for the temporary." And I can see, because the sannyasi was a qualified brahmana, I can see from the lines on your forehead that you're not going to have children for another 7 lifetimes. So just accept that's whatever is back there, that's your future. Just accept it and don't lament like this. And he gave knowledge, and he gave, there's more details. He gave his forecast, his future, but he couldn't hear it. God have a son, God have a son. So the Brahmana told him many stories of great personalities that were in anxiety like that, and they were advised by a sadhu like he was advising Atma Deva, it's not meant for you, just accept it. And he told the story, King Citraketu. I see some people nodding, and I see some other people going like they don't know the King Citraketu story. So I'm going to narrate the King Citraketu story. In short, it covers many chapters in the Bhagwatam. It's important. King Citraketu was a king, and he had a wife, a queen, and there were no children. So he married a second queen, no children. He married the third queen. I forget the number. You remember the number? Look it up. He had more queens than Krishna had. You know the number? No, you don't know the number. Some big number. No children. So, he could have just understood it's not meant to be. But he wasn't accepting it's not meant to be. This is what the sannyasi is telling the whole story, retelling a story in Padma Purana that's from Srimad Bhagwatam. And Angira Muni came to his palace, to his kingdom. And the king was pious. He received him very nicely, served him 10 million. That's too many. 10 million. Hello? Not meant to be. Angira came. He saw the king and said, it looks like everything is going well, but you don't look so good. Is your treasury well? Is the rainfall sufficient? Are the people obedient to you as the king? What could be the cause? He said, all of those things are well, except I don't have a son. I want a son. So he could understand. You have 10 million wives. You have no son. Don't you understand it's not meant to be? He couldn't hear it. So he said, very well, there's a yajna I can perform whereby you can have a son, but I'll warn you, the son will be both a source of great happiness and great distress. In fact, I'll give him a name. His name was Harsha Shoka. Harsha Shoka. Shoka means distress. Harsha. And King Citraketu thought, maybe he won't be so obedient, but better have that kind of a son than no son at all. So let's do the yajna. So he did the yajna. And there was some, it's very similar to Dasarath's yajna. There was some bhayasam, and it was given to him to give to his queen. He gave to his first queen, and the other 9,999,999 queens were in the back seat, because he gave all attention to the one that was pregnant and then his son. And some of those many queens started becoming envious, as sometimes happens in this world. People become envious. So they wanted a son, and if we can't have a son, then she shouldn't have a son. So they decided to poison the child. So it's described in the Bhagavatam like this, and he's told the whole story. And when the king woke up in the morning to hearing his wife scream, he came running and running and tripping over his robe and came before the child was lying in his crib dead. And lamenting and lamenting and lamenting. Oh. And who would show up right then but Narada Muni at the right time and say all the right things? It's Narada Muni's uncanny. And he came with Angira. And Angira spoke first. And he spoke transcendental knowledge because he didn't speak transcendental knowledge before because he couldn't hear it. So he spoke transcendental knowledge, and the light went on for the king. Wow. Who are you? He said, you don't recognize me, but I'm the one that gave you the yagya so you could have a son. You were so delirious with the loss of your son that you forgot who I am. Oh, yeah. And who's your friend? It's Narada Muni. Oh. So Narada Muni spoke transcendental knowledge. Narada Muni then could understand he's ready for bhakti, and he gave him bhakti, gyan, knowledge of devotion. And at the end, Angira, well, King Citraketu, was, because he was ready to hear when he heard from Narada. Before he wasn't ready to hear. So Narada said to the king, if you like, I can bring your son back from the dead. So he spoke to this is the painting, he spoke to the boy in the crib and said, my dear Harshashoka, your father is right here, and he is so much distress having lost you as his son. Please come back and accept him as your father. The boy sat up. Didn't even look at his father, who was on the left over here. He looked straight at Narada and spoke to Narada. Who's my father anyways? I've had so many fathers. Which one is my father? And transcendental knowledge and transcendental knowledge. And I was with my eternal father. That's where I'm going. And he laid back down again and was gone. King Citraketu was astonished. His excessive attachment had been not just reduced, but relieved. And he asked Narada for those instructions that you gave me, how should I conduct my life in devotion? He did so. He went to a mountaintop and conducted very strong austerities in devotion. In his self-same life, he became a king in one of the regions in the Bhuvar Loka region. He became a king of Vidyadhara Loka, and then some other things happened in his self-same life. So he's now the sage on the left, the sannyasi is telling the Brahmana, Atma Deva, it's not meant to be. I'm telling you, it's not meant to be. I want a son, I want a son. He said, oh, you're just like King Citraketu. Okay, here's a way by which you can have a son. Although your chart says you're not going to have a son, but here's a way by which you can have a son. Here's a mango. Take the mango back home, give the mango to your wife, Dunduli, and if she eats the mango, of course offer it to Lord Narayan, eat the mango, but only for the next 1 year, 3 things. 1 meal a day, never speak a lie, and always remain very clean. Never speak harsh words to others, and always remain very clean. You follow that principle, and she'll have a son. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And he went back home and gave the mango to his wife, told the whole story. And Dunduli, being a materialistic Brahmani, which are contradictory terms, she was thinking, if I become pregnant, then I'll become fat. And if there's some danger, I won't be able to run away. And it won't look nice anymore, because I look really nice right now. And she gave this reason and that reason. If there's some problem in the pregnancy, then I'll have a problem. If in the childbirth is going to be so painful, I'm not going to eat the mango. So her husband came the next day and asked, "Did you eat the mango?" She said yes, although she had already determined she's a liar. She's not a very good Brahmani. That was one of the conditions. Don't tell a lie and speak nicely, because she had a tendency to do both of those things. The Brahmana knew she couldn't do it. She had a friend. She told her friend. Her friend didn't have a suggestion what to do. Her younger sister came. This is her younger sister. Her younger sister came, and she told the whole thing to her younger sister, what to do, what to do. I'm not going to eat that mango. His younger sister made a sneaky plan. Said, I already have several children, and I'm pregnant now, so you can tell your husband you ate the mango, and when my child is born, I'll give my child to you, and you can say this is your child. Oh, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And so they decided to give the mango to the cow that was sterile. And lo and behold, in a reasonable period of time, the cow gave birth to a human. And the human had a unique characteristic that his ears were shaped like the ears of a cow. So he was given the name Gokarna. Gokarna. And that was their son. And the child that was born of her sister was, so now they had two children. Gokarna, born from the cow. They didn't tell anybody he was born from a cow, and then this other son. So Gokarna turned out to be a really good, first-class Brahminical boy, and he lived his life in a very saintly way. And the son that was born of her younger sister, Dhundhakari, he was just the opposite. He was very bad, very wicked, and greedy. So there's a long section. I'm just going to say it very succinctly. As he grew up, Dhundhakari stole his father's money, used it in bad ways, and made his father, who was wealthy, no longer wealthy. He spent all his money. So Dhundhakari is living at home with mom and dad, and it's Atma Deva and Dunduli. And he then one day told his father, there's hardly anything left. I'm going to take your paraphernalia for deity worship. I'm going to go sell it. When I come back, you better have more money or I'm going to do something very wicked. And his father thought what the Brahmin said was right. He was very sad. Then his son, Gokarna, saw his father in this terribly distressed condition. So he spoke transcendental knowledge. Something like Angira and Narada said to King Citraketu, and he heard it. He's, transcendental knowledge, same as you find in the Bhagwatam. It's in this story from Padma Purana. And what you should do is take sannyas. No, he's his son advising his father, leave home, take sannyas, and just devote yourself to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And his father it was mainly out of frustration, but his father left home. Father, but you're giving me very good advice. I'm very fortunate to have such a good son as you. So his father left. When his father left, and Dhundhakari came back and started harassing his mother, I want more money or else. She went crazy. It was too much for her. And so she drank poison. She died. So this left Dhundhakari with the family home. No wealth from his parents. So he started cohabiting with 5 prostitutes living in the house. And because he didn't have any other means, although he was born from a Brahmin family, he did what some people do. He became a thief and a plunderer and a this and a that. The way that the description goes, one time he robbed the king because he had an idea that I just robbed this one last time, I don't have to rob anymore. He gathered together so much riches. The 5 ladies living in the house thought, this guy's dangerous. We have to finish him because he can get us in big trouble. This is the king's wealth. So they poisoned him. Well, excuse me. They tried to kill him this way, tried to kill him that way. Finally, they put hot coals in his mouth and he died. So he became a ghost. And his brother, Gokarna, at that time heard that his brother is now died. He was in what's the place where you do oblation to your ancestors? Prayag. No. Gaya. Thank you. Thank you. When you get to be my age, you're going to forget some details. Maybe your memory will be better than mine. Gaya. So he did several rituals in Gaya for his deceased brother. He went to many other holy places, because he's an elevated person. He knew what the rituals were. He did all the rituals in many, many places. And thinking that that would be sufficient to help his brother move on, although he knew that he had done many bad things. He came back, he visited the house, and this ghostly apparition appeared before him, changing into multiple different forms. And so what did Gokarna do? He sprinkled some of his sacred puja water on this apparition, and it turned out to be his brother, who then spoke to him. He purified him enough so he could show his ghost form and say, look at this, I'm suffering so much. Please do whatever you can to help free me from this suffering. He said, I've already done all the pujas that I know how to do from scripture, but your sinful activities are so enormous, it's been insufficient. So he went to do some meditation on the sun god, because sun god can bring health and restore one's well-being. The sun god informed him that he should, he had this voice, the sun god informed him that he should recite Srimad Bhagwatam for 7 days. And your brother will be relieved of all of his sins. So right away, he knew the Bhagwatam. He was a learned person. So he went and set up a yajna arena for conducting the Bhagavad Katha. And he invited people from all over, and he was already a kind of a celebrity because of his spiritual capacities. And they set up the arena where he would speak in such a way there's bamboo structure all the way around. Now he Gokarna, wanted his ghost brother, Dhundhakari, to hear, but he couldn't come in a normal way, so he concealed himself inside the hollow of one of the bamboos. And at the end of each day, one of the knots from the bamboo broke. And then the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Finally, at the end of the 7th day, some miracle happened. Dhundhakari, who was listening very intently, and later the description says he was not only listening very intently, but all night long he was remembering, meditating upon the subject matter that he had heard, because he had heard it so intently, because he was suffering so much. He wanted relief from the suffering, and his brother was going to help him do that. He listened with full attention, and he rose from that remaining part of the bamboo pole in a 4-armed form. A Vaikuntha Vimana descended and invited him to come on. It's very similar to the Dhruva Maharaj description. come on their Vaikuntha Vimana and started taking him away. So Dhundhakari called out and said, wait, can you answer one question? There were so many other people assembled here hearing the same thing that you're hearing, and they didn't get the same benefit that you got. Why is that? And the answer was given. Here's this Vaikuntha Vimana descending, and there's from the bamboo pole comes his brother, and so forth. So he said, because I was listening so intently, my life depended on it. I don't think the others were listening with the same intent. And they all saw this. Dhundhakari was known to be a bad guy. And there he was. He became a Vaikunthavasi. So they asked, the story ends this way, they asked Gokarna, could you say it again? We'll listen more carefully this time. And they also returned to the spiritual world by hearing. This is in Padma Purana, describing the glories of hearing Srimad Bhagwatam. So the glories are there, but the intention, back to the theme, and purpose are very different. Now, Dhundhakari's purpose was not pleasing Krishna. It was like, let me out of this situation. I'm suffering too much. But by good association, by Gokarna's association, he could understand something higher than just get out of the suffering that what one is in. There is a higher purpose to life. And the Bhagavatam teaches us there is a higher purpose and what that higher purpose is. And if we can hear it adequately, sufficiently, then we can act on that platform. So there's this gradual elevation, generally gradual elevation. It can be too gradual for some people, but gradual elevation on the path of bhakti. It has everything to do with your intention. And with intention comes attention. You've heard that one before? Behind attention is intention. We'll say it the other way. You ever chant japa? Do you chant japa every day? One round. One time. One mantra or one round? One round. Very good. Now, does your mind wander when you chant that one round? Sometimes. Maybe it's the other way around. Sometimes you're paying. So, intention helps you to be attentive. The goal and the exercise of the process need to be in alignment. So what's in the heart is very important. And then ultimately that Krishna is to be pleased, because Krishna can make him, Krishna is within his holy name, but we're not experiencing that, generally speaking. Or Krishna is within every page of Srimad Bhagavatam. We're not necessarily experiencing that. Next lesson. We hear Bhagavatam regularly. I just narrated one little quick. It covers like 4 chapters, this nice story of King Citraketu. There's one other narration that it's found in Nectar of Devotion, but the source is from another place. And it's a description of deity worship can be done in a number of different ways. When Brahmana was attending a Bhagavad Katha, and he heard there are different ways of worshiping. And one of the ways of worshiping is in the mind. Now, if you can do it physically, don't just sit in your room and do it in your mind. But if you're physically unable, like this elderly Brahmana was unable and was quite poor, and so he tried it. Early in the morning, he would gather the finest ingredients in the world that he could, literally from the world, and the best flowers and the best scents to rub on the body of his deity, and ornaments and crowns and things and things and things. And every day he was doing very intense absorption in deity worship in his mind. A diamond throne and so forth. One day, when it came time after all the deity dressing, bathing and dressing and everything, it was time to make an offering. So he was preparing sweet rice. You know the story. Most of you know the story. And in his mind, he was going to test the sweet rice to see if it was cool enough to offer to his deity. We've had, in Houston, there were 2 deity installations this past weekend. And the pujari he put everything, before the substance was placed on the deity, he put his finger in to make sure the ghee wasn't too hot and the juices weren't too cold. Because it's for the pleasure of the deity. It's not just a ritual, it's personal. So he put his finger in the sweet rice to see if it was cool enough. And it wasn't cool enough, it burned his finger. And his meditation broke. And he looked at his finger, and his finger was burned. It was just in his meditation. But he was so absorbed in his meditation, literally his finger burned. And as he was astonished seeing his finger burned, look it up there on the upper left. If you're out there in the corner, you can't see, but I'll tell you what's on the screen. In the upper left of the painting, there's a Vaikuntha Vimana that descended and took the Brahmana to the spiritual world. Because although he was poor and didn't have the means to worship nicely, he wanted to, and he had faith in what he had heard in the Bhagavad Gita, and so he was doing this puja to his best ability for hours every day in his mind. And Krishna accepted the offering, obviously. So the intention behind our activity is of utmost importance. It's not the only thing that we have to be attentive to. Things still need to be clean and punctual and regulated and with the intention of pleasing Krishna is the most important ingredient. There's so many statements in scripture. People offer me this and that I don't need to accept, but even something very simple. Leaf. Who can't get a leaf? Maybe if you're in a desert, you can't get a leaf, but otherwise you can get a leaf or flu. So it's not the opulence of the situation. It's the love and devotion. And if one has the capacity, then opulence is nice because it's for Krishna. Now that's on the topic of deity worship, but the principle of prayer, which is where we started, the power of purpose and intention behind prayer or behind any feature of devotional service. It's really important. There's verses in the Bhagwatam that teach the principles, and there's examples of historical examples that tell us the lives of different persons who displayed that power of purpose and intention. Gokarna was a good one. And because of him, his brother was delivered. And because of him, his father was delivered. And because of him, sounds like many others who were also hearing him recite Srimad Bhagavatam, when they were hearing more attentively than the first time around, they also got enormous benefit. So there's our topic for this evening. There's a lot of people here. It's a good thing you have a big space. Is everybody like from the nearby, or you came from faraway places, or combination? Combination. Okay. So let's see if there's some discussion. Oh, yeah, I saw your hand first. Do we have a portable microphone? Because there might be some people online.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. It's nice to have you back here in Dallas and hearing you in person.
Thank you for the rain.
It's my fault.
But if this was where I'm going later this week is going to Boston, it would be snow. So thanks for the rain.
Hare Krishna.
When I came from Chicago, it was really cold. And I landed, it was 78 degrees. It's like, hey, Texas. Go ahead.
But you're warming our hearts. So thank you.
It's the Bhagwatam.
Hare Krishna.
I'm just like sending some vibrations.
So Maharaj, like in our lives, when we have events or reversals, and it might be due to providence, like in the example we saw here, that they didn't get the sign, he didn't take the sign, and he kept trying. What should we meditate on? Like, is that because of our karma? Is that because of Krishna's will? Because he is the boss? What should we meditate on?
It depends. It depends. That's my answer to a question like this. It depends. And so it depends means who you are in your relationship with Krishna, how you should think. But, just step back from the detail. And a favorite answer to a question like this for me these days is the verse from Brahma Samhita. You like Brahma Samhita? Me too. Yas tvindra gopam atavindra mahosva karma bandhanurupa padabhajanam atunoti karmani nirdahita kintu cha bhakti bhajam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajam, which says, if you're not a devotee, then it's your karma. And if you're a devotee, it says, from Indra down to the... I found out what an Indragopa is. You know what an Indragopa is? It's a little tiny red insect. I found out about it from a description of Kavi Karnapur about the sister of Vrinda Devi, is Barha Devi. It's a detour, but it's nice. Barha Devi is Vrinda Devi's cousin sister, and she's rainy season personified. So when it's the right time, Vrinda Devi calls her cousin sister time. And when she walks with, it's very poetically described. I can't say it exactly the same way, but she walks with the breeze of the wind, and her feet are made red by the Indragopas surrounding her feet. The little, thousands and thousands of red little insects. I've never seen any, but that's the description. So, from the tiny Indra Gopa to the Indra and the King of Heaven, everyone in between gets according to their karma. Yas tvindra gopam atirvendra svahok karma. And then there's devotees. For those who are engaged in bhakti bhajam, if there's some misfortune that comes, it's Krishna's kindness. Because that kindness is Krishna helping his bhakta who has some roots in past, in unfavorable tendencies, inauspicious tendencies, vasanas that are hard to uproot. He uproots them. Bhaktisiddhanta calls it, in his language, the fire of ordeal. But it's Krishna's kindness, and it's not due to past karma. It's due to Krishna's kindness. It's the internal potency kindness. It's sometimes it's this, sometimes it's that. Just like duality is sometimes this and sometimes, but they're all illusory. This is permanent. Permanent relationship with Krishna is being restored for the devotee. It's different than karma. And then there's there's different relationships at different stages of one's devotion. One can analyze accordingly. How's that?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I have a sore throat, so please excuse the shakiness in my voice.
I can't understand what you're saying. Speak louder.
I have a sore throat.
You have a sore throat.
Yeah, so this is a comment in relation to that, so please excuse my sore throat. But this is about intention.
We better get something to disinfect this thing afterwards. Because we don't want her sore throat to be passed. I'm serious. Do you have some kind of, in your house, you have something that can get, your wife's going to go get it. Okay, go ahead, keep going.
So this was about the power of intention.
Yeah.
So this was just something that I've just realized right now. When I was
When she's done.
When the lecture started, my undeclared intention was I'm gonna cough. It's sort of like it's gonna happen, and I wanted to sit in the corner so I could quietly disappear without attracting attention.
Oh.
And but that was the intention. It was I'm gonna cough. That's given, and there was no prayer to Krishna that Krishna, please help me not cough, and so I can attend the lecture properly. But when you gestured that I come forward, there was a prayer. The intention changed. The intention became Krishna, please let me not cough. So, and with that intention, I hopefully didn't cough.
But then if you coughed, that doesn't mean that Krishna let you down.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now your question.
No, it's just a comment, Maharaj, about
Okay.
the power of intention.
Turn it off. Over here. I see a hand over here.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, from the story you narrated, there is a possibility that if we sincerely hear Bhagavatam for 7 days, liberation may happen. Means we'll attain Krishna, mostly. We are not interested in liberation, right? So we'll attain
Well,
Krishna.
it can happen in one day. It can happen in 1 minute. But go ahead.
Yeah. So, like I felt many times I'm trapped by my own mind. So there's a possibility is there why we shouldn't practice this 7 days every time, so that until I know I am not that pure.
Just you dedicate your whole life to it. No one's holding you back.
Yeah.
So you don't need 7 days. Now, why does it take long? Is that the question you're asking? That's not the question. Why don't I do it 7 days? That's what you're asking? That's what you want to know?
If I do it on my own self, I cannot do it.
Well, that's not how we do it. We hear from people who are pure. And we hear with as far as we can with rapt attention. Now that's the trick, because persons who are very pure, that's one thing, and rapt attention is another thing. That's something that I do on my side. Rupa Goswami has taught us that it's a paraphrasing a verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that says there's 2 ways in which one can attain the bhava stage. One is Krishna just bestows it, and another is we, through sadhana, demonstrate to Krishna our eagerness to receive it, and Krishna may then bestow it. And he writes in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the sadhana preceding the bestowal is more common. It's like getting a degree from Oxford University. They can just give an honorary degree with no classes and no exams and nothing. That's not usual. It's possible. It does happen. But so from our side, so what do you do? Not just 7 days, but sadhana according to the guidelines that our acharyas, let's say Rupa Goswami, he gives the guidelines for bhakti. sadhana bhakti in detail and detail and detail and detail and detail and detail. And there's even more detail in Hari Bhakti Vilas, but detail and detail. So we follow with faith every day. Dhairyat, right? For how long? However long, until Krishna bestows, because it's in Krishna's hand. So we qualify ourselves, we strive to qualify ourselves, and await descending mercy to come. It's in Krishna's hand. There's something we can do, something you and I can do. And if it's not, here's a good one. If it's not happening swiftly as you feel it might or should or could, then you take a look at the qualitative way in which you're understanding the sadhana practices and how carefully you're applying them with the purpose of pleasing Krishna. So here's a little, for example, just happened today. Somebody somewhere in the United States said they were requested by their local community to teach musical instruments to children, once a week. Kids that like, what kids don't like music? All kids like music these days. All kids like. So they have proficiency without going into details. So they felt unsure. This is a letter to me. They contacted Badahari. What do you think? Because they know Badahari. Badahari knows them. What do you think? And he was encouraging and said, here's some tools and here's some principles that you can apply. And I'm sure you'll do well. You can contact me later on after a few lessons and I'll coach you. It's very kind. Badahari's nice. So then they wrote to me saying, similarly. So I haven't written a reply, but I'm going to say one thing. Two things. Whatever Badahari said, it's gold. And I'm most likely said it, but let me add gold to the gold. And that is most important, third time most important is for the pleasure of Krishna. Because that's the bhakti principle. And one who practices with the bhakti principle grows as well as anything else that you want to see grow, like musical ability or something. Anything. So, not just, follow the regulations carefully, look what's behind it. That's what this is. And then you'll get there more quickly. Okay. Yeah. You're on.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So I just had a small question about the Atma Deva pastime. So what yuga is that story in?
What's the question?
Like what yuga did the story take place?
What yuga? This one? It doesn't say. You have a question back there?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for your nice lecture. Quick question. So normally we follow certain prayers and we do the prayers and chanting because we have been told by Maharaj or Guru, and sometimes we follow the scriptures and we do the prayers, not necessarily by some intentions. So does that mean if we do those prayers, without any intention, we won't get the benefits.
You'll get benefit. The fact that you're saying those prayers instead of n number of other things that the speaking part of the body might make sounds with, there's benefit. Something that's authorized, and there's some submission to the source of everything by those standard prayers. And then there's intensity. Well, the effectiveness will grow depending upon. But let's assume you're reciting standard prayers. No, there's other kinds of prayers, and that's the self-made prayers. Those are also just fine. The standard prayers have a great advantage, several advantages. One is you're associating with the person, that great soul that provided you with that standard prayer. Like, the Damdarastakam prayer. Satyavrata Muni, he gets some special Krishna points for composing that, because so many people are singing it. We're getting his association by reciting it or singing it, etc. Or Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the Guru Vandanam. So we get their association, and the message is unfiltered. It's pure. Our consciousness may not be, but the message is. So standard prayers have benefit, even if our intention isn't at the maximum. Okay. In front of you?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the lecture. My question is a bit of a clarification.
About clarification?
It's like a small clarification, and then after that, it's like a tinier question.
Okay.
So, okay, to get this straight. So purpose is basically the goal of whatever bhakti or service you're doing, and then intention is the motivation of doing it?
Does that help you?
Hang on, I'm trying to see.
Can you read it? Intention is, there's a series of options for you about anything. Like, am I going to ask this question or not? I saw you kind of puzzling over whether you should ask the question or not. I could see it on your face. Then, okay, let me be clear what the question is and try to articulate the question as best I can. That's the selecting one at the very bottom. And the sankalpa vikalpa looked like this. Manash consists of the functions of vikalpa, perceiving distinct options, and sankalpa, determination. So there's some overlap. It's not an absolute, it's a Venn diagram. There's some overlap. But like this example of the man putting a tulsi leaf in his morning tea. There's intention, but it's not pleasing to Krishna. So that's an important factor in all of this. Is it actually being fulfilled? And so that's where we stay within the boundaries of Scripture. Even liberated souls stay within the boundaries of Scripture. What to speak of the rest of us? Now, more?
And so, okay, my question is, so through me personally, just through my seva, my whole bhakti journey and things like that, I believe that my intention at first, although maybe it did start with some material gain, maybe it being I'm doing bhakti because I want to enrich my own life and I want to make myself happier.
Yes.
Because that's kind of how we're attracted to this in the first place, right?
Yes.
So my question is, when does it start? When do we start? Because as people of Kali Yuga, we're very selfish, We think of things as, if I do this, maybe I'll get this in return. Things like that. It's a very give and receive type of culture we have here in the Western world, especially.
Sure.
And my question is, when we're trying to complete things to give Krishna that pleasure and give them like, and get that Krishna prem like genuinely, do you honestly think that a lot of us are able to achieve that?
Yes. Gradually, not instantly. Certainly not instantly. We can get an A in our exam. So here's a little, 5 days ago, sitting in a room discussing Bhagavad Gita, and so one devotee was asking what's the difference between karma and gyan, and we were reading. And I said, well, let me ask you a question before I answer your question. When you're reading Bhagavad Gita, is it to gather knowledge, or is it to nourish your bhakti, or is it a combination of both? And she, I'm reading for the pleasure of Krishna. I said, come on. You want to get there, but let's be honest. And it's, there's some for the pleasure of Krishna. It's like his question. It's not the same, but it's intention. I'm reciting standard prayers. I'm reading Bhagavad Gita. I'm doing some bhakti. I'm doing some seva, using your word. And there's a mix. And that's where we are. And your question is, when does it become? And the answer is, it's like the rising of the sun. It's gradual. And it's not, I'll say it 3 times. It's not that the sun is going to keep rising in our bhakti life, because it can go up and down. That's unsteady. Like the sine curve, up and down. That's how it goes. So how we make it go more up and less down, or the amplitude decreases and the angle that it moves on, the trajectory is upwards. And it has everything to do with where we are in our bhakti life, in this life at this time. It's likely there's something back there in previous lifetimes, something. And now we're continuing. So it's our focus, being honest with ourselves where we are, and our strengths and our weaknesses and our capacities. And this is where my faith is. This is my using the word of Rupa Goswami, nishchaya. I have confidence to do, I have faith in doing this. And if we honestly, this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's words, you practice according to the honest statement of where you are, and then you are always striving to go forward. And as you're always striving to go forward, there's the next step. I'm on this step, and I'm not going to linger on this step. I'm going to strive a reasonable next step, a reasonable next step, a reasonable next step. So that's enthusiasm. That's the utsahan part. So be honest with yourself, with where you are. It sounds like you are, and don't overindulge yourself in feeling humble. Just be realistic with where you are, and take good association, someone that will encourage you to be who you are, and then take the next step, and take the next step, and take the next step. And continue keeping good association. Because that's a choice.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Marge. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Now, how are we doing? Something way over on this side. Okay, in between.
So I'm just wondering, Maharaj, like the intention for Dhundhakari was to get rid of his situation,
Yes.
or he really wanted to go back to Vaikuntha?
No.
And if it is so, then does that intention really matters? Isn't
Yes.
it? Like, even though we don't have intention to go back.
The way it's described, I'll give 2 examples. In this story, the way it's described is, from what he heard during the day, he was hearing with such rapt attention for the reason of wanting relief of the suffering of being in a ghost body that was the product of his so many sins. He wanted relief from that suffering, but he was meditating on the personality of Godhead. So those intentions shifted. Like Dhruva's intentions shifted. Or like, because I just narrated yesterday evening the story of 10th canto, chapters 70 through 73, which is the kings that were imprisoned by Jarasandha. Krishna, through messenger, promised them, I will relieve you from your imprisonment, which meant he would kill Jarasandha. And they had faith. They were already Krishna bhaktas, like you and I were Krishna bhaktas, but were captured by our own misfortunes in different ways. We're not necessarily in prison, but though they waited, Krishna didn't come for several months. And during the course of those several months, I'm responding to your question through this story, Bhagavatam story, they became completely freed from their anxiety about being in prison. They became more in anxiety about returning to the position of being kings. Because when they were kings, they were infatuated with being king. The wealth, the power. They weren't taking proper care of their citizens. You know, they were filled with material opulence and getting more. So they didn't want to go back to it. But Krishna wanted them to go back to it, so they did. But they had become freed from that lower tendency by their meditation. So your question was, what about this sankalpa, or the intention of Dhundhakari? His intention wasn't to be Vaikuntha, but he became released from this, let me get out of this suffering condition, by hearing with the kind of rapt attention that he gave to it. Now, there's an enormous amount of descending mercy. It's not the same as the Brahmana who was doing his meditation with full concentration for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. That wasn't where Dhundhakari started. So the Supreme Lord can grant his mercy for someone who demonstrates their eagerness to give full attention to his name, his form, his qualities, etc. Now,
So, what I'm wondering, like, then what is the significance of intention here? Like,
it's
even though
it's
even
transformation. It's of the soul, and it can be awakened.
no, even if I don't have any intention, if I just submissively hear Bhagavatam, I think it is more like power of Bhagavatam. Even if I don't have intention to go back to Krishna, but if I hear it submissively, contemplate, then probably I'll get that goal.
No. I mean, almost. Let's take the microphone away from you. Pass it up front here. Let me respond. Pass the microphone. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadyakavu Noi. You know the verse? Nitya Siddha, the soul is eternally perfect. Krishna Prema, the soul, the covering of the soul is something else. But the covering, the soul has Krishna Prema within. And Shravanadi, Shravana, Adi, beginning with hearing, Shuddha Chitte. So as conscious Chitte, consciousness, becomes Shuddha by Shravana, Adi, by the process of bhakti, then the intention, everything awakens. Krishna Prema awakens. And part of Krishna Prema is an intention to please Krishna. That's not, for example, where Dhruva started. We're all familiar with that story. He didn't start with that. That's what he got. He was squeaky clean at the end. I don't want. he got. Even he didn't want. But he did know what he did want. Same with these kings. At the end, when Krishna's ready to give them what they want, they said, the only thing we want is constant remembrance of you. Not only constant remembrance of you, but the means by which we can come to a stage of constant remembrance of you. We want the sadhana to get the sadhya. So he did the sadhana, Dhundhakari, not with the intention, but we can understand, the detail isn't presented, but his coverings were removed and the original consciousness is restored, and with that original consciousness restored comes the intention. So where does the intention come from anyways? Where does anything come from anyways? The source of everything. So when the Supreme Lord sees that here is a person, you or me or any person, they're really sincere, they want me, he can give himself to that person.
Oh, is it on? Yep. Thank you so much for the class. Wonderful class, Maharaj. I think my question is somewhat related to what Prabhuji was just asking. When somebody's doing any form of prayer, somebody might ask, what are you praying for? As people on the bhakti path, must we always know what we are praying for? At least think about what we are praying for?
Generally, we're foggy. Be honest. Generally, the goal is not clear. And it changes from time to time based upon the last powerful person we associated with. You know what I'm saying? I want to distribute more books. I want to serve my deity with greater, I want to chant the holy name, I want to read, I want to become really immersed in the Bhagavad, so it's going to change. And part of it is, to be honest, part of it is cosmetic. It's the check the box kind of answer as opposed to from the heart kind of answer. So generally it's mixed. But that's okay. That's okay. Like his question about prayer, that my intention is not there. I'm just reciting. So it's okay. That's a stage of bhakti. You stay with it. It's an honest statement of where I am. Like this young girl, pay attention over here. It's like her question. I'm being honest with where I am so that I can, be honest instead of a phony. And, just then stay there and go to the next. Purification it helps to know where we are as well as where we aren't and where we want to go. You have the last question.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. So my question was, the cow's son. So when he recited the Srimad Bhagwatam for 7 days, why did only Dhundhakari only go back? Why did the cow's son not?
That's what Gokarna asked Dhundhakari. Your question, I'll just repeat. Maybe I didn't say it clearly enough.
Why didn't not the other people who were sitting there, but why didn't the cow's son go back?
Oh, he did. But he had some other service to do. What about you? If there's some service to you, Krishna may let you keep on doing your service. Let him give lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of Bhagavatam classes, like Prabhupada, or like any great personality that gives themselves to the world selflessly. They may, Krishna will take them when Krishna wants to take them. And meanwhile, here's a nice one. You know who Lord Chaitanya is, right? And you know who Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master was? Ishwara Puri. Ishwara Puri? Ishwara Puri, when Ishwara Puri visited, when Lord Chaitanya wasn't yet initiated, he was still Nimai Pandit. He was like a student. He was a teacher of other students, teaching grammar. Ishwara Puri came to Navadvip, Lord Chaitanya served him, and he, Ishwara Puri, understood that Lord Chaitanya was a really good grammarian. So he asked Lord Chaitanya, you please come and listen, and if you see any grammar mistakes, please bring it to my attention because I'd like to correct the grammar mistakes. You know the story? Okay. Ishwara Puri. Later he became his spiritual master, but the book was about Krishna's pastimes. I'm sure it was a wonderful book. So one of the verses in that book describes his desire. It's very similar to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saying in his Shikshastaka prayers about Mama Janmani Jamani Shure Bhavatad Bhaktira Haitaki Twai. You've heard that one before, right? He's offering a prayer. I don't want liberation. I just want to be engaged in pure devotional service unto Krishna. Birth after birth. Ahaitaki bhakti, unalloyed, unmixed devotional service, birth after birth. That's Lord Chaitanya's Shikshastaka. His spiritual master, Ishwara Puri, wrote a similar verse. The persons that are very accomplished at this process, that process, the other process, whereby they can get liberation, with folded palms, I'm come before them and wish them the best. As for me, I simply want to engage in hearing your glories, birth after birth. Now, that's elevated. It's probably not you and me. That's very elevated. If someone gave you a choice, would you like to take many, many births and just read Bhagwatam with your friends? Or would you like to go back to Krishna Loka? Yeah. Let's go. So, most of us. But there's a stage of bhakti, so it depends on the stage of bhakti. So why did Gokarna not go back? He had some service to do. And if that service is, whatever that service is, that was his happiness. Okay. Let's end there. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.